folks, where did the summer go? I'm going to do something incredibly ambitious, and I'm also sort of contradictorily trying to do it very, very fast. So here we go. Not content with just giving you my predictions for who's going to win the national championship in college football in the 2017 season, I'm going to give you projected win-loss record for all 130 Division I or FBS or whatever they call it nowadays schools. Alright, let's try to do this the best we can. I'm not going to go in depth for every team because, of course, you can just look at the standings here that I've projected. And you don't want to know how many hours I put into this. If it's more than 2, I'll leave it at that. Just going through the schedule and, just simulating games and checking things off and just doing my best to make as solid predictions as I can, considering what we know about these teams and their rosters. So, don't say I don't give you quality content. Don't say I don't try and I go the extra mile, because I really went above and beyond the autism spectrum for this little project. Alright, so I'm just going to go through each conference very, very quickly, give you just my skinny on it, and then we'll move along to the rest of the postseason, all the bowl games, and our predictions for the championship games, and the final 25 standing, all that good stuff. Alright, so it makes a lot of sense to start with the ACC, because that's where the defending national champion Clemson, their particular conference. So basically, I think it's going to be a very, very good division, or conference, my bad. And I think one of the really interesting things we're seeing in the offseason is, for whatever reason, the Heisman Trophy winner is coming back. No one's really talking about him. I mean, Lamar Jackson had a fantastic season last year. I know the team did kind of collapse late, and they do have some defensive holes, but I think as good as this guy was last year, he's going to be even better this year. And I think they've made some pretty good, well, maybe not a whole lot of additions, but I think enough additions to their defense to improve. Really, only Lamar Jackson needs a couple offensive weapons and even like a mediocre defense, and this is like a playoff caliber team. And I think at the end of the day, they will end up winning a very, very competitive ACC Atlantic. I'm losing only one game all year round. And I think Clemson and Florida State will both be very good. They dropped 2 games overall. They have a slightly harder schedule. I mean, Florida State's playing Alabama right out the gate, so that's got to count for something. So I think those kind of cancel one another out. The rest of that division, not really worth talking about. Wake Forest, I think, might surprise people a bit, and that's about it. ACC Coastal, this is really Miami's to lose. I mean, there's really no other team in that conference, or sub-conference, my bad, that I think can make a run for the title, or the playoffs for that matter. So yeah, I got Miami. Just a really good team offensively, good team defensively. Mark Richt has really turned that program around. I mean, they're not quite there yet. I think they can make it to the championship game. Not quite a playoff contender yet, but give them time, and I think their odds are a lot better than, well, pretty much everybody else you see there. Although I do think BT in North Carolina, a lot of people are sleeping on them. I think they can win a whole lot more games than people assume. Moving along. SEC, perennial powerhouse conference, Alabama and LSU. I think they'll end up going 11-1. I think Alabama beats LSU, and that gives them the proxy SEC West title. I mean, it should be very, very good. A lot of people are really high on Auburn. I actually have them only going 6-6, breaking even, and, well, obviously missing the postseason. I think they're a very, very overrated team. I wouldn't count them. Although, if you look at this is a really good conference, or sub-conference, my bad. Every team in it is at least 500, which is not something you can say about a lot of conferences out there. A lot of other ones have like 2-10 teams and 3-9. So the fact that everybody is above 500 in the SEC West tells you just how good it is. I think Arkansas, that's a pretty good underdog team. I think Ole Miss, they're still very, very credible as an opponent. If you're wondering how I have the one loss to for Alabama, I actually think they're going to get upset by Arkansas. I think this will be the big early season upset, but they weather the storm and they just keep crusading on, and Alabama does what Alabama does. SEC East, again, if Georgia doesn't win it this year, forget it. I might as well just stop playing football. Really, Tennessee, I think they'll take a big step back. I think Missouri, just by proxy of having a pretty light schedule, can win a whole lot more games, people assume, and maybe make a run for the SEC East crown. And of course, Florida, really, really good defense, but no offense whatsoever. I think they're going to lose some really, really bad games. Obviously, you got Florida State, which is a tough team. And I think Georgia has a slightly easier schedule than Florida, so I think it gives them the nod there. So that should be enough to get them back in the championship game for the SEC. Big Ten. All right, they got Penn State, Ohio State, both finishing 11-1. Obviously, that means Penn State would beat Ohio State in that particular scenario. And we also have Michigan finishing 10-2. Like I said, I mean, it's a really, really good conference where Michigan could feasibly be like a top 10 team at the end of the season, and they only finished like third place. Really not a whole lot to say about that. These are going to be very, very, very good teams, but as good as they are, kind of a shocker here. I don't think numerically they're going to be the best team in the Big Ten, because I think Wisconsin, as good as they are offensively and defensively, and the fact that they have a pretty light schedule compared to the guys in the Big Ten East, I think they do indeed run the table, and they finish the regular season with a 12-0 record, which heading into the big championship game might actually put them as the #1 team in the country. Do not be surprised if that happens. You know, we'll see what happens from there, but I think this is a regular season team. If you take a look at all the teams in the Power 5, I think Wisconsin is probably the only team out there that I think has a very, very solid and reasonable expectation to go undefeated. Whether that'll get them the championship, we'll see. Whether it even gets them in the playoffs, we'll see. More on that in just a bit. But yeah, not a whole lot to say about the Big Ten West. Iowa should be pretty good, but everybody else is taking a pretty big step back. Even though I think Northwestern could be a sleeper team and get an upset here or there. All right, moving along. Big 12, they finally have a championship game. What do you expect? It's a big glut at the top. I think Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State will be playing musical chairs. I think just by proxy of this team beating this team and getting an early win over this opponent, it's going to come down to all those tiebreakers at the end of the season. And I think Texas does enough to get the top of there, or at least line them up with a championship game against Oklahoma, and we'll see what happens from there. Kansas State, West Virginia, I think are two teams that could overperform, and I see TCU and Baylor, who have been really fighting for the championship the last couple of years, taking huge step backs. I don't think Baylor wins more than 3 games all year round, so there's that. TCU finishes with a sub-500 record. Texas Tech goes 7-5, and we'll see, because there are a lot of really good teams in college football this year, and even winning the Big 12. I think if there's any conference, any of the Power 5, that are the most likely candidate to miss out, probably the Big 12. It's just too competitive. Everybody loses to everybody else, and I don't know. I think that'll cost them in the long haul. Moving along, Pac-12. Got Washington going 11-1. I think Oregon is a huge, huge sleeper team. I think they're going to finish the season 10-2. They get some big upsets. Stanford, I think, goes to 8-4. They're a good team, but they don't have the running game that they had last year. It's going to hurt them. Pac-12, USC, a lot of people are expecting them to make a national championship run. I think they go 11-1. And I think UCLA is another sleeper team. I think they go 10-2 as well. Colorado falls to 8-4 after doing very, very well and beyond expectations last year. And I have pretty much nothing to say about the rest of the division because they're not really worth talking about. Okay, let's move along to the non-Power 5s. Very quickly, the AAC. I think Memphis goes 11-1. A lot of people are talking about Houston maybe being like a dark horse playoff team. No, that's not going to happen. They're not even the best team in their sub-conference at this point. I'm going to go with Memphis to go 11-1, and I think in the AC East, Temple is probably the best shot there. Both these guys may be fighting for a top 10 slot in the rankings, but as far as major bowls, no, it's just too competitive in the Power 5. Get that fantasy out of your head, not happening. Mountain West, Boise State, I think they go 10-2. They lose some games they really shouldn't. They should have an undefeated record, but they always, hunch the pooch at some point in the season, and I don't think 2017 is going to be any different. Air Force could be a good under-the-radar team. Look at them to win a couple of games. And Mountain West, like anybody cares, but, I think if you're going to go with a crazy upset, go with the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. Why not? I mean, SDSU and Fresno State are not the teams they used to be, and Hawaii and Nevada aren't going to do anything. I think they can be a pretty big surprise team this year. Not a lot of people wager any bets on them, but I think they'll at least finish the season, in the top, 35 rankings maybe. Right, time to go to the MAC. I think Buffalo, and this is easily the worst subconference in Division I football. I think they actually end up going 6-6. and that's the best record in the entire MAC East. Don't even talk about how terrible this division is. MAC West, a little bit better. I think Central Michigan edges out Western Michigan. I think Northern Illinois. Did I spell that correctly? Did I throw in too many L's? It looks like I may have. Okay, no, I didn't. That's good. Yeah, Northern Illinois can, I think, finish above 500, but everybody else, not really worth talking about. AAC East, I think Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, they're the team where the mascot is that big, red grimace-looking dude. He's always in the ESPN commercials. They overperformed last year. I think they really excelled this year. They go 12-0. But that's not even close to get them in a big bowl game, so get that out of your head. Like I said, Power 5, way too good this year to even mull such asinine assumptions. And the AAC West, not a whole lot of really decent teams there, to be honest with you. UAB's back. I think they're going to be the worst team probably overall in college football, probably going 1-11. Louisiana Tech, I expect to win the AAC West. Southern Miss may be close, but let's face it, nobody cares. All right. And lastly, rounding out the Division I or FBS schools, whatever they call it nowadays, I've got Appalachian State going 10-2. They're probably the most talented team overall. Well, they are the most talented team overall. The most disciplined, the most built-up division we have, and they don't have a championship game yet. They're going to have one next year, so nobody really cares. That said, I think they're going to have some pretty decentish teams as far as win-loss records go. I think Troy and Arkansas State can finish, with 9 wins, but like I said, there's just too much talent in the Power 5 for that to really count for anything. And lastly, the Independents, Notre Dame 4-8, going to have a terrible year. Army. I think Army can go 11-1. Once again, that's not good enough, I think, for a major bowl berth, but it's a feel-good story. I like to see these military schools do well. Wouldn't it be awesome if, one year you had, Army or Navy, going in and take on Alabama or USC for the national title? That would just be so cool, like it's 1930 or something all over again. But yeah, I expect them to win a lot of games this year, but probably not doing enough to get them, obviously, in one of the New Year's Eve or New Year's Day major bowls. All right, so take one good final gander at that. That's our big whiteboard, like in Cabin in the Woods. So to get a screenshot, save it for January when I'm right, and I'll show it to everybody and everything. I'm Nostradamus. All right, did that good. Now let's move along to my championship game predictions. I'm not doing a score for this one because I'm trying to get this thing under 20 minutes. That'd take forever. But I do think in the ACC Championship, Louisville will beat Miami. I think Alabama should easily surmount Georgia for the SEC title. Wisconsin goes 12-0 in the regular season, but I think Penn State, with one losing record, beats them and therefore becomes the proxy division winner and front runner for the playoffs because of that victory. Big 12, again, finally doing their championship game. And overlook the fact that I misspelled Oklahoma. You know what that is. It's not, some new, Native American school. It's Oklahoma. I left out the H there, but my bad. So yeah, I think Texas wins that one and makes them a 11-2 team, but I don't think they really have a good enough record or quality wins to get them in the postseason. USC should beat Washington in what should be a very, very close, very entertaining game. AAC, I got Temple upsetting Memphis. I'm going to take the UNLV Rebels to beat Boise State for the Mountain West title. Doing the big upset. Central Michigan over Buffalo for the MAC title. No surprise there. Western Kentucky over Louisiana Tech for the Conference USA strap. And Sun Belt, just by having the best record because they don't have a championship game yet, App State should win. So there's that. So that gives you a pretty clear picture of who's going to be where moving into the postseason and the playoffs and the big bowl games. But in case you weren't paying attention, I think once the championship games are over and done with and we're looking at the final end of regular season top 25 standings, this is the way I think it's going to check out, and this will determine, of course, our seeding for the playoffs. Alabama finishes 12-1, first seed overall. They only have a very close loss to Arkansas. I think USC, by what they do against Washington, will get them listed number 2 at 12-1. Penn State with a big win over Wisconsin, that puts them at number 3. Louisville 12-1 after winning the ACC championship. Wisconsin, by proxy of losing only one game all year round to Penn State, I think they finish out at the 5th seed. Ohio State 11-1 is the 6th seed. LSU 11-1 at 7. Washington 11-2, Texas 11-2, Florida State 10-2. Remember, they didn't make the playoffs, they didn't make the championship game, so they still have 10 wins on their record. And you can pretty much read the rest for yourself. Clemson at 11 with 10-2, Georgia 10-3, finishing at 12. Michigan at 10-2 at 13, Oregon 14 with 10 wins, 2 losses. UCLA 10-2. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of really, really good Power 5 teams here, so I don't think any of these non-Power 5s will be able to sneak into the top 20 and make a serious run of the playoffs, or even a major bowl, just because it's very, very talented. A lot of good, 1 and 2 loss teams there to deal with. Where were we? Okay, Oregon 10-2, UCLA 15 with 10-2, Oklahoma State 10-2, 16, Miami 10-3 at 17, Oklahoma 10-3 at 18. Western Kentucky, I think, will finish 13-0. That's enough to give them the 19th spot. Temple 12-1 at 20, 21, Army 11-1. Arkansas finishing 9-3. They'll give them the 22 spot. Iowa also 9-3. They'll get them the 23rd seed. Memphis finishes 10-2 for 24. And Appalachian State 10-2 at season's end. So that's my predictions for the final standings come late December. All right, let's take a look at the Big 7 bowl games. Cotton Bowl, I got LSU taking on Clemson. I think Clemson wins that 35-31. Should be a nail-biter. Fiesta Bowl, I got Washington taking out Florida State 28-21. Another very close, interesting game. In fact, they all should be pretty interesting around New Year's time. Orange Bowl, Miami against Wisconsin. Of course, what's more fitting than having Miami playing in the Orange Bowl? I think they'd beat the deflated Badgers by 9 points. Peach Bowl, there probably is a team that's more deserving than Georgia, but I mean, come on, it's in Atlanta, it's in the Falcons Stadium. They're going to put Georgia in there, and then they get beat by Ohio State by a pretty comfortable margin. 8 points sounds reasonable. All right, in our first 2 playoffs games, and remember, they seed it in this weird way so that no team appears to have a home field advantage. So that's why you're not seeing USC playing in the Rose Bowl because, well, of course that'd be, field advantage. So I got Alabama hosting Louisville in the Rose Bowl. I think Alabama should just crush them 51-17. We all know how good that defense is. And as good as Lamar Jackson is, I think as good as their team's going to be to get them to the playoffs, that defense is just too much. He's not going to be able to do it all by himself. And bad things happen. Sugar Bowl should be way, way more entertaining. I think it's going to be a close battle for the ages. But I think USC, with their high-flying offense, their potent strike, they end up beating Penn State by 3 points. Probably by a late field goal or a late fourth quarter rally. That should be good. And that naturally sets up our national championship game. It's Alabama taking on USC. Very historic matchup there. I mean, what's more different than Birmingham taking on Los Angeles? And my prediction, I think it's going to be one of the best championship games ever played. This one's going to be historic. I think it's going to be a nail-biter. It might take a couple overtimes to decide it. But I do have Alabama just barely scraping by 34-32 victory. And don't really have a whole lot more to say about that. I just think it's a very, very easy pick taking Alabama to win and USC to make it all the way to the national championship game. They're probably going to be 1-2 for most of the season, but I don't know. It just seems like it'll fit and should be an entertaining game. Defense, offense, immovable object versus irresistible force. Should make for a hell of a game. I'm looking forward to it, and thank goodness we can enjoy Saturdays again. College football, I have missed you.